Eventually, I got a website and then a book. So this is my ambassador. I send this book everywhere because you have the opportunity, you have the capacity, you have the power to really practice this very simple whole foods plant-based diet. Now, I talk about this as a diet. A vegan diet is a plant diet, plant-based diet. It's not necessarily always whole foods plant-based. In other words, you can have cheeses that are plant-based. That's not a whole food. It's a processed food. You can have fake meats, or you can have fake bacons, and all these different parallel line of food items that really are meant to resemble the ones that you probably left behind. Those are not what I consider, or what should be considered, a whole foods plant-based. Veganism is a philosophy or a way of life. It should not be put to the scrutiny of science, because it cannot be explained with science. Veganism is a philosophy and a way of life where you really live without exploiting other sentient beings, where you do not use any other living being for any purpose. There's no science that can explain that away. That's a conviction and a mental soul state of being. So we really sidestep the core values of veganism when we try to explain veganism in scientific terms. Having said that, what I'm going to do is help you with the science part of why whole foods plant-based, or why the vegan diet is best for our health, let alone for the health of the planet, because even though we're not here to talk about environment, we know that there's a huge carbon, methane, and nitrous oxide footprint that's really degrading our environment. So put that aside and learn about it, and let it fuel your own path and conviction. So what I would like to say is, what is it about plants that make them so important and so essential to our health and the health of the planet and the health of everyone involved? Plants are the only living entities on the planet Earth that do what? Yes, photosynthesize. And what does that mean? They're the only ones that make food. The rest of us eat it. Plants are the only living things on the planet that make food and store it. So think of the anatomy of a plant, which is one of the... I actually have some handouts for you, but I'm not going to give it to them until the end. Think of a plant anatomy. The plant has roots, a stem, maybe, some leaves, and seeds that often are inside a fruit, the baby of the plant. Sometimes they're just on the head of the flower. All these are parts of plants that we do what? We go for.
Yeah.
That's really what we base all our nutrition on. Only a handful of animals are destined to eat each other. They're called carnivores. The rest of the planet is a plant-eating animal life. The animals, that's another handout that I have for you. The animals that people choose to eat are herbivores. So the plant has a root. Name some roots that we really covet. Carrots, radishes, sweet potatoes, rutabagas, beets, parsnips, celery root. All right, you all understand that. When we really do a disservice to ourselves when we say fruits and vegetables. When somebody says a burger, you know exactly what they're talking about. So instead of just using fruits and vegetables, color your language by saying rutabagas and turnips and radishes, and immediately what is in the other person, when in the receiving person's mind, is colors, really alive with colors. So besides those roots, we also have bulbs that we eat, like the shallots and the onions and the garlic. We have other roots like turmeric and ginger. There's really no stopping. I mean, we can go on and on all afternoon long and name plants that we eat or we use to season our food with. Do not stop at the usual suspects. People go to the groceries and just buy the same 10 things over and over and over again. And over time, it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And what do people go? They buy milk, eggs, bread, butter, and some animal parts. And that's what they eat the rest of their week. And when these conditions show up, they say, why? I've been eating well. That's another thing, that we have a very, very skewed notion of what healthy eating is. So going to the stems, the celeries and the asparagus and whatever we can eat from plants. But we really, of many plants, we eat mostly the fruits or the seeds. So what are some fruits? And here I'm treating you as scientists, because fruits are not just the sweet ones. Fruits are the part of the plant that has the seeds. Exactly. So let's name 5 fruits. Tomatoes. Apples, avocados, okra. Exactly. So if it has the seeds inside, this is a nice game to have with children. What part of the plant is this? It's the fruit. I mean, it's just very simple. We bypass the leafy vegetables, which I don't mean to because it's one of my favorites, and it's the way to really make a soup for 2 for 10, or to really flavor anything from a hummus to a tofu scrambler with either spinach or kale or collards or Brussels sprouts or cabbages, Napa cabbages, and then these heads that are just lovely little trees like cauliflower and broccoli, and on and on and on, with particular health benefits to us. And I will mention just a couple. Cruciferous vegetables, known also as brassica vegetables. They help our P52 gene, which is the one that monitors our cells dividing and maybe mutating and maybe going rogue on the cancer path, and just kills them. Don't you want to have a cruciferous on the watch every day? And arugula is another cruciferous. So there's really such a great variety. Turnips, radishes, they're all crucifera. So you can really have 1 or 2 crucifera every day and not get bored or not really think that your diet is very narrow. So back to the fruits, and maybe then the seeds. There are 3 types of seeds. When I was growing up, my professor said that there are lumpers and splitters. I lump and split in my own way, so bear with me. 3 categories of seeds. Can you mention some of them? Okay, when I say seeds, are the seeds of plants. So grains, that's a big category of seeds. Grains. So rice, oats, quinoa, barley, amaranth, millet, corn. Those are all seeds of grasses. The grains are seeds of grasses. Other seeds that we use are the seeds that grow in pods, like soft pods, like legumes. Yes. So I don't know how many of you have seen how chickpeas grow. They grow 2 in a pod. Go to an Asian, Indian, or Latino market, and you'll see green chickpeas in the pod. They're delicious. Like edamames. We go in waves here in our consciousness. I mean, we're so selective, and we're so when one fad burns out, we go into the next fad. And I'm asking you to really keep a wide notion. So the seeds that grow in pods are called legumes, and they're the lentils and the chickpeas and navy beans and black beans, and there's a seed, one for every letter of the alphabet. And they're colorful, and the way you cook them is how? In water, just like grains. Just put them in water, and that's it. Cook them in water, and then you flavor them. There's another category of seeds that grow not in soft pods, but in woody pods that you have to crack open. And we gave them to the goby, that would flick them against the side of the
tusk fish.
The tusk. That's right. Why would I forget? By the way, if Dr. Balcom's Jonathan's talk was entertaining and illuminating and really heart-opening, the book is that and so much more. So, thank you. So the seeds that grow in woody pods are the ones that you have to crack open, like walnuts, almonds, chestnuts, cashews, pecans. Okay, so the ones that you have to crack open. There are some, like this person here says, are seeds that grow on the heads of flowers, and you really just have to run before the birds get them.
Yeah.
They're there for the picking, almost on a plate. So imagine, this is what nature has to offer us. This is what plants have to offer us. And what do plants make most of? Of the 3 nutrients. Again, only 3 nutrients in the whole planet. They're micronutrients, which are known as the zinc, the minerals, zinc and iron and magnesium, but there are 3 macronutrients without which there is no food. What are they?
Vitamins.
Carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. Exactly. And if you go to the nutrition label, which I mentioned was law only since 1973, they will highlight carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Which one do we need the most of? Carbohydrates. 70% of our calories should be from carbohydrates. Now, there are carbohydrates that have earned themselves a bad name, and those are the ones that have been refined to only be flour or sugar. Those are the 2 refined carbohydrates we should steer away from. But that's easy because they are in the category of foods that I mentioned earlier was what? Processed foods. So if you don't go for processed foods, you're cool, right?
Yeah.
All the carbohydrate that you need is enveloped in the natural plant food, in fiber, water, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. Exactly what we need. Because if I took a hunk of any one of us, what is it? Protein and fat. There's no carbohydrate there. Only carbohydrate in our bodies is the sugar flowing through our arteries on the way to be used for energy. Now, you go to your kitchen and you have sugar ready from the bowl. That's way too much. We tend to use too much when it's refined and right there in the bowl. Same as oil. Fat. The way that fat exists in nature is how? As part of the plant, part of the seed, part of the blueberry, part of the apple. All foods, all plants have carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Do animal foods have all 3? Turkey. Does turkey have carbohydrate, protein, and fat? Somebody says no. Well, then you qualify. So what is turkey made of? It's protein and fat. There's no carbohydrate. Wait a second, but I need 70% of my calories to come from carbohydrates. So am I going to get it from eating turkey or fish or chicken? No. What am I going to do with that? Other than really pay with our soul, because when we bring sentient beings to life only to kill them for our taste, we're not just harming the animals, we're hurting ourselves. It's bad karma. So what we are doing with the fat from those foods is wearing them. We're wearing it. We're not using it. our body says, what do I do with this? I already have enough. You already made. I don't need to make you again. All I need is a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat for spare parts. Spare parts meaning, the skin that I leave on the tub and the sheets, the hair that I leave at the hairdresser, the nails. I mean, and of course, things that I poop by mistake that I should have retained. I have to remake them, so I need a little bit of protein and fat for that. But that's only 10% of my calories should come from protein. And if I eat a variety of foods and I'm not unintentionally losing weight, I have enough protein. So stop with the notion of, I need my protein. What you need is a variety of plant foods. Oats and quinoa in the morning with blueberries or apples or grapes. Stir fry, a wrap, and use instead of a tortilla, you can use what?
Lettuce.
Yeah, lettuce is not my favorite, but yes, a cabbage or Swiss chard, something that has more oomph.
Yeah.
Now, is this diet just good for adults, or is it also good for children? What about for pregnant women? What about for elderly? Is it too late for me? Well, one of the things that I really get off me. One of the things that really made me get on this path of writing a book and teaching my patients how to cook and eat whole foods, plant-based, is because what happens to these chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, high cholesterol, arthritis, what happens to them if we eat whole foods, plant-based?
The reverse.
Exactly. It's not a mystery, and it's not an oddity. They slow down, arrest, and even reverse.
Oh, wow.
In 1990, Dr. Dean Ornish showed this without a doubt when he showed coronary arteries, which are the arteries that supply the blood flow to the heart, that were blocked, giving a lot of symptoms to the people, reverse. In other words, by coronary angiogram, which is a picture of how the arteries look and how narrow and plaque-ridden they were, and they started to clear out in a matter of how long? 18 months. But in that time, the people who had angina, symptomatic heart disease, did not have any more symptoms, which means that their disease had slowed down and arrested pretty soon and started to reverse. So this car has a reverse. You had a question?
What about, I'm pretty familiar with the health aspects, what about mental deterioration?
Mental deterioration, very interesting, because Alzheimer's has been mentioned in the scientific literature as type 3 diabetes. Type 3 diabetes means that there is really the same ocean in which all these chronic conditions are being incubated, right? We're nourishing them. We are really not innocent bystanders. This is the same sea that's producing these icebergs. So yes, and we can all be vegans if in lifestyle and definitely in diet. Mm-hmm. The biggest obstacle is where?
Other people?
In our minds. The biggest obstacle is in our minds. Mm-hmm. That's why coming to an event like this and many others, and the really important work that Ann Dinshaw and Freya Dinshaw are spearheading out this way, mm-hmm. to go to the hearts of people through their mouths and their stomachs. And then when you have a chance, like I take people in my practice for 3 days to experience just whole foods, plant-based, and they stop taking their purple pill because they no longer have acid reflux. Or somebody came in with a blood sugar of 170 or 200 and forgot their insulin. And I said, really? But it's not a lack of insulin, it's really insulin resistance. In a day and a half, blood sugar was down to a 107. That person was really with energy, not sick.
Yeah.
So when you can see it really happen fast, I don't need to tell you again. Your body is your messenger. So whether you are a young child, an adolescent, a young adult, an adult, mature person, myself, elderly, not yet, we can arrest and reverse all these conditions and feel better within a week to 10 days. Of course, we reap the benefits for much longer than that. What we need is plants to help us. We get the calcium from where? Pills? Milk?
Leafy greens.
Plants, exactly. Where do you think the animals got them? Calcium goes, it's a mineral. You know, the plants are our allies. Plants draw from the earth the minerals. What else do we need? We need our fiber. We need fiber. Who gives us fiber?
Plants.
FiberCon? Or, yeah, plants. Plants give us fiber. The only ones that make fiber. And we do not digest. I have one interesting thing to say, and I don't know where Jonathan is, but he talked about being generous or doing something for others. Altruism, that's what he mentioned, right? B12. Every animal makes B12 in their intestines. Actually, we don't make it, but bacteria make it in our intestines. But we make it too far down in the gut for us to absorb our own. So it's an act of generosity. We poop it out for the rest of the planet. Animals get benefits from the other animals the contamination of their food from the excrement of other animals, and it contains B12. We are a little bit more picky than that, right? So we do need a vitamin B12 supplement. So that's all we really, really need. We need to eat plants, a great variety of them. Consider processed and factory foods as party foods, and then a B12 supplement.
Mm-hmm.
What about D3? Well, we make our own vitamin D, which is a hormone, and this is for another talk altogether, but there seems to be a correlation between a poor state of health and low levels of vitamin D, and we're not quite sure yet what came first. If people who have less than optimal health make less vitamin D3, given all the same conditions, because when you are given vitamin D3, it does not really improve your chronic conditions. So it seems to be that many people do not make vitamin D3 because, their bodies are not functioning at 100%. So if you feel you need to satisfy your D3, your vitamin D requirements by having some vitamin D, you can just go ahead. There are vegan options for that. That raising of the hand meant what?
Half hour, but that's between me and you.
And I already spoke for half an hour?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm almost done, actually.
We'll take your time.
What do we do for muscles? I mean, don't we need extra protein for muscles? What do we need? Exercise. And I'll tell you very quickly, exercise, if your heart is pumping against high blood pressure, your heart muscle gets big. Did you give your heart muscle extra protein? No, it just pumped against high blood pressure, and that's how it got big. So you pump against pressure, and your muscles will get big.
All right.
Well, so whole foods, plant-based diet, vegan diet is good for our body. It's good for the environment. 70% of the grain that's produced worldwide is funneled to agribusiness, to animals. If we redistributed the grain that's now being produced and harvested without funneling it to agribusiness, we could feed 6 billion people. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. So we could really alleviate world hunger just by going vegan. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Right now, our diet would only sustain 2.5 billion people. Of course, there's world hunger. Can you compute?
Yeah.
All right. So, that's the riparian areas in need of repair. That's how I remember it. It's the areas that are on either side of waterways where the animals are allowed to graze. They go to areas that are water and there's more lush. They really completely change the ecology. The animals that live there are displaced. You increase erosion. So think of just the ripple effect of just because we like the taste of flesh. Because it's really no more than that. We don't need it. And in fact, it's hurting us, but we don't want to see it. Let me put my blinders back on. We cannot escape, the kinship with all that lives. We will, as we do, violate animals every day. But it's not the animals alone that really get hurt by this, our chosen lifestyle. It's also hurting the soul of humankind. Thank you.
All right.